We're here. Love it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm joined by the incredible Danielle. She is the founder and CEO of Badassery, which is such an amazing name for a company. It is a podcast guest agency that helps bold founders cut through the noise and secure podcast features that really move the needle. She has helped entrepreneurs, authors, and speakers land hundreds of top-tier podcast placements. And in a past life, she even helped clients book more than 30K in paid speaking gigs on some of the world's biggest stages. Before launching Badassery, Danielle scaled communities by Built by Girls, Verizon Media, and Shine, and she even co-led a national pitch competition with Michelle Obama. Today, she is bringing all of that expertise to help you uncover your unique story, pitch it with confidence, and make sure that the right audiences hear it. So, whether you're brand new to podcasting or you're ready to level up your strategy, this session will give you a clear roadmap to pitch, land, and leverage podcast features that grow your biz and also your personal brand. So, Danielle, so thrilled to welcome you up onto the stage. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's go ahead and have you share your slides and hop on in.
Let's do it. Okay, thanks, Taylor. Let me share my screen. Hi, everyone. Welcome. I heard there's a few new members, so hopefully this sets the bar high for all of the D&D events.
I already know it will. And let's just keep
That's
on raising
awesome.
it.
Yeah, exactly. And thank you for doing the prompt. So it seems like the average is sort of around number two. I realized the prompt, including a numbers plus number of podcasts, got a little confusing. I'll change that next time. But it's really, really nice to meet all of you. I'll tell you a little bit more about myself, about what we're going to dive into, and kind of the misconception about podcasting in general. So I've worked with a lot of people who want to get on podcasts, even really top tier speakers or authors, or as Taylor said, founders. And it's sort of like podcasting can feel a little bit scary. I don't know if anybody has felt this way, but when I work with people, they're often like, "Oh, I could never do it. It feels so much more intimate," or it's that microphone being interviewed, and they kind of think like this is the vibe, right? Like Mariah Carey, full body. I mean, I will always support a full body glitter suit at any recording, but this is not kind of how it always has to be. And I do just want to set the stage and put our minds in the reality that literally anyone of any caliber or experience level or whatever it is can get on podcasts. The beauty of this space is that there's so many podcasts, right? So many that are niche, so many that are big. We just listed a bunch, a lot that I hadn't heard about. And really all you need is a clear point of view, stories that connect, a mic, or even like, I'm using Beats Fit Pro, AirPods, whatever, something that has a strong mic, and then a willingness to be uncomfy. Like, you don't know how many times people tell me like, "Oh, I listened back to that recording. I hate the sound of my voice. Like I couldn't handle my voice. Like I couldn't handle how I look." Whatever it is, right? We've all been there. And so it's just the willingness to know you're not going to get it completely right the first time, the second time, and also what is right anyways. So it's kind of like you are able to get on podcasts, and it already seems most of you have. So hopefully this will be a launching pad to get on even more or get even more targeted. Um, and one thing I did want to also prompt, so one thing as we're going through this presentation is that anything in the yellow here that has this little chat emoji is sort of, my invitation to you to write in the chat or as an activity. And so if you could drop something that you'll love being interviewed about or that you eventually want to get interviewed about in the chat, that would be awesome. And I just kind of want to look at them as they're coming in. Ooh, business sales, health and wellness. Oh, I love this. Jazz wants to kind of transition. We're going to talk about that too. Interviewed about stages of psychological. Oh, I love it. Okay, there's so many kinds of topics. Something else as we're talking about prompts is please, please, please be as involved as you want in this conversation. Put all of your questions in there. We're not going to wait for Q&A at the end. Like, this is very collaborative. Okay, so a little bit about me. I mean, Taylor's intro kind of said it all. So right now, yep, I'm the CEO and founder of Badassery. We're a podcast guest and personal brand agency for founders who refuse to be boring, aka most of us in here, right? The heartbeat of everything I've always done is to amplify voices that need to be heard. So that has taken a lot of forms. Of course, right now, most recently as podcast guest agency. In the past was a speakers bureau. The only correction I'll make from Taylor's is it was not $30,000, but it was over 300,000, or in this case, $400,000 collectively to our speakers in supplemental income. So I was really, really passionate about not just getting people heard, but getting people paid, right? Because that's deserved. all the way also to giving teen girls a voice and getting them up on stages to actually pitch their brilliant business ideas. So it's kind of run the gamut. And also the heartbeat is sort of helping all of these people help develop and share their stories, right? So I've worked with lots of people to figure out what differentiates them, like what is that zone of genius that we can talk about. And not just that, but how do we pair that with what people actually want to hear externally, right? So sort of like audience founder match. How do we do it in a way that's a little bit spicy, that's not so similar to potentially another coach who's right by you and might have the same expertise, but how do we just make it amplified and a little bit more unique? So outside of that, I'm first generation Lebanese, so Middle Eastern. I love salsa dancing. I started that like 2 years ago, so it's been a real adult challenge that I would recommend to anybody. And then a bunch of you also mentioned Amy Poehler. I put her here. She is my idol, and I love Good Hang. So that's a little bit about me. And then these are kind of some of the brands that I've worked with in the past. Okay, let's move on to the good stuff. So, why podcast guesting matters. I want to throw in some stats about personal brand specific to founders, which is most of us are business owners, right? I think we all hypothetically know that it's important. We're like, oh, let's post on LinkedIn, or oh, sure, like someone invited me to a podcast, I'm going to say yes. But I actually wanted you to have tangible stats to show you how it impacts you. So 48% of a company's reputation depends on the founder's personal brand. A strong executive brand boosts talent attraction by 70% and retention by 77%. Even if your business does not have any other full-time people, this could even mean if you're going to bring in someone who's a contractor, right? The first thing, or a lot of the first things they look at is who they're going to work for. And if you want to keep your people, which is really important and much cheaper than trying to hire again, right? Boost retention by 77%. We've all done it. Before I worked for anybody, I'm like, who is my boss, right? What are they going to do? Even before I joined D&D, I looked up who's the founder. It's Keisha. She's amazing. I'm joining, right? And so in the case that you also are looking for investors at some point, if not, that's okay, obviously, but 87% of investors factor in an executive's brand when making investment decisions. If you do think about this, it makes sense, right? The goal of an investor is to de-risk their choice as fast as possible. So if they see that you're posting often about your industry or about why you started your business or see people engaging, and be like, oh, green flag, this is somebody I want to work with. And already they, yeah, as I said, de-risked part of their investment decision, right? And then podcasting specifically, a lot of people listen to podcasts, at least in the US, right? 60% of US consumers listen to podcasts. That is huge. That is like absolutely enormous, right? So it's something to definitely take advantage of. And one thing I want to point up top is consumers want people, not brands. This is definitely something that is a non-negotiable. And okay, so I took the liberties, I hope no one gets mad, but I took the liberties of just pulling 3 people who RSVP to this event. I can't really see if they're in here. I think I saw Jessica's name in here. I don't know who's in here, but I took 3 people who RSVP'd and showed the difference between the follower count of their personal profile and their business profile. One thing I want to set the stage for is it's not about the actual number. I'm not saying, 400. Oh, that's not what I'm saying is please look at the difference between, Sandra's followers versus her company's followers, right? You can say it's 5x the amount. Same thing for Morgan, 366 versus 28 for her company, and for Jessica, right? 1245 versus 11. So I think you guys get the point here. Basically, people want you. They don't want your business. They obviously want both. But when they're going to decide who to work with, they're going to go to you first, understand you, right? Why would I hire this accountant versus another accountant, right? I just want to put that up. I hope nobody gets mad, but I guess we'll find out at the end of this session. For podcasting specifically, interestingly, podcast listeners are open to new brands and services way more than other traditional media. So, like music, TV, radio. This is for a couple of reasons. One is that it's way more intimate. You sound like a human. People are connecting to you. And secondly, because of the advertising landscape, people just naturally, like it's in their ear, they're more likely to buy. But I did want to point this out and say just how powerful it can be in converting your customers. And you all know this to some capacity, at least because you are here, but podcasting is a secret to building authority. Of course, increasing trust and credibility, generating leads in a way that's not really salesy, which people really don't love to be sold to, but this one is sort of like, a little bit of a loopy way to generate those leads. Get evergreen discoverability. So of course, anytime you're Googled, actually Google does prefer video and audio. So naturally, most likely those will pop up first on the page 1 and 2. This one's a big one, I think, especially in the era we're in now. So ensure non-AI generated content. I can't even imagine a world where, like my LinkedIn doesn't have dashes in the content, right? But this is one way where oh, this is actually a person who's talking. They didn't ask AI to draft their a blog post or whatever it is. It's actually the person, so we can trust it much faster. Build new relationships with hosts, and so hosts are really a portal into a big niche for whatever niche you're in. They can open that up for you. When a host loves working with a guest, they will want to work with the guest again or recommend to somebody else. I say this from experience. And then generally, I think all of us are really heart-centered people. So just making an impact with stories and knowledge. The reason I dove into podcasting for my business is because as a founder, I have gotten my education from podcasts, from how I built this, from indie hackers, from all these places. And so I now feel called to reshare my knowledge with people who it might impact. Just feels good. Is that so bad? Like, I don't think that's bad, right? All this business stuff, great. But everything else, if you love teaching, this is a perfect platform. I just want to make sure, Taylor, do we have questions before I proceed? I
I
can't
think
really see
we're all
much.
good for
We're
now, but
good. Okay.
please feel free to drop them in as they pour in. I am here and I am watching.
Okay. Thanks, Taylor. Perfect. All right. So getting started with podcast guesting. So the first thing is getting clear on your goals. I've heard so many times where I was like, someone will tell me, "Oh, this person invited me on their podcast," and I said yes. And I'm like, okay, that can be good. That's not necessarily a bad thing. But your hour, if we think about your hour, I don't know, let's say you charge like $100 an hour. If we think about the ROI on it, if you're just going to go on a podcast and say it's going to cost you $100 an hour in, being on the podcast, $100 an hour being prep, whatever, better make it worth your while, right? So it's really important to get clear on your goals. Number one thing, is this medium right for me? There are some mediums that are more innate or frictionless than others in PR. Some of us are much more comfortable and better writers. Some of us really love talking or interacting or being interviewed. My assumption is if you are here, most likely this is a medium that really excites you. But I would say, obviously, think about which PR medium is best for you. Secondly, would be what's your goal? So, is it visibility? Do you just want to show up and practice until you feel more confident? Do you want to promote a launch, grow your own podcast, transition industries? I think I saw someone say they are talking about something now, but they want to talk about something later. Podcasting is awesome for that. Who do you want to reach? It's really important to get super specific with demographic, psychographic, industries, niches, and getting specific, but also creative, right? So not just like, I want to talk to people who are ready to transform their lives. That could mean so many things, right? And it makes it really hard to have an effective conversation or make an effective decision about which podcast to join. That could mean, for example, that you're open to talking to single moms who are new founders, right? Potentially they want to transform their lives, and it gets way more niche, right? Just talk that way we can connect to specific types of podcasts. So getting as specific as possible is really, really good. And then just many of you have been on podcasts, but the lead time for podcasts or the life cycle is anywhere from 2 to 6 months between reaching out, scheduling. Some hosts love rescheduling, right? And then going live, it can literally take months. And so if you have a certain moment you're trying to work backwards from, I would say work like 6 months back from that moment to get everything organized. Sometimes hosts also have already booked up all of their spots for the season. You might get pushed to the next season. So it really, really just depends. And then, yeah, just reiterating again, without clarity, it'll just kind of be a bit of a waste of time. The second thing is creating a bookable bio, as I call it. So it's not hyper complicated, right? But it just should be clear and it should sound like you. So the flow is like this, like who you are and what you do, who you help, and the transformation you create. A credibility marker can be one quick proof point or more than that. and then something that is very uniquely you, so personality. I'll show you an example in a second, but common mistakes I see in bios, way too long, especially if we're talking podcast specifically, or if you're even pitching for speaking gigs, super long. People are not going to read it. Too vague. This one drives me insane because we have had clients who are too vague. And when we have pitched them, the hosts are like, I just like don't even know what you're talking about, right? There's a huge risk with saying, I'm passionate about helping people reach their potential. Technically, you could be a psychic in that case, right? Like, I don't know, psychics like helping people reach their potential. You see what I mean? What people? What type of potential? This is me and my clients every day. What are you talking about? Too jargony. Words like meaningful, potential. We all use them. I use them. We all love them. But getting too jargony gets way too confusing and then dilutes your impact and dilutes, kind of like puts you in the same bucket as a lot of people who are also getting jargony and really fluffy. And then reads like a resume. I just said a resume or bullet points. Don't do that in your bio, please. I've seen this many times. There's a time and a place for that, but we're here, to tell a bit of a story so that hosts can make a decision about your storytelling capabilities quickly, right? So here's an example of actually a former Badassery client, Ariel. She's also an OG Dreamers and Doers member. She's incredible. So here is an example. I'll not read the whole thing, but you can see, right? Ariel Lechner is an executive coach who helps CEOs identify the levers they can pull to unlock massive value, whether that's accelerating growth, strengthening teams, or navigating high stakes decisions. There's a lot of other stuff there, but that's that first section. Who you are, what you do. Very clear. CEOs identify what they can pull to unlock the value. She identifies the value, right? Okay. In terms of who she helps in transformation, she did talk about that up here, but down here she also says blah, blah, blah. Now she helps founders and executives eliminate leadership blind spots, fix team dysfunction, and make the strategic decisions necessary to position their companies to win. I get that. That's cool. Here, credibility markers. So she mentions Ariel has worked with leaders from Google, GitHub, Coda, right? So credibility can mean talking about actual brands. It can mean talking about the actual impact with numbers. It can mean being featured in Forbes, whatever you want. What she also said, her work has been featured in Forbes, Business Insider, NASDAQ, blah, blah, blah. The gift of us all being in this room is that I am certain that you have either already been placed because of DD or that you will if you are a new member. So you already have the credibility marker. And then the last thing is that personality or the hook. So outside of coaching, you can find her learning violin, hosting friends for dinner, volunteering. Get funky. Like also make this sound like you, make this sound like you're talking to a person. Actually, something I saw on Taylor's LinkedIn the other day was sort of like, write dear XYZ to like a friend or like, hey Taylor, blah, 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 right? Like at the top of your thing and pretend like you're talking to a friend. Because I think it's easy to get really caught up in sort of like this idea of a bookable bio, blah, blah, blah. But, just make it really relatable and inject your personality. The reality is that Ariel is an extremely direct person. So this sounds like Ariel. She's really funny, but she's very direct and she's dry. So this is why this sounds like this and it sounds like her and it's great. But the reality is that hosts, they want relatable and spunky humans. So don't be afraid to be spunky. I put let your freak flags fly. So let them fly, friends. I think we have some time for this. As I'm talking through the next section, if you guys want to give a shot at writing a two sentence bio, let's not call it a bio, maybe like a little bit about you in the chat with like a few pieces of this framework. I would love to see what you have, and we'll take actually like a minute and see, and then we can kind of give feedback if it warrants it. I see a lot of YouTube.
Danielle, while we're here waiting for folks to pour things in, we do have a question from Taryn.
Sure.
They just got a press bio. She just finished her press bio and is wondering if she could use that for a media bio.
A press bio. Where's Taryn? I can't see. Can Taryn come off mute and tell me what that is?
Yeah, so I just did an article submission for Authority Mag, and they
Nice.
asked me to do a press bio. So I never had a press bio, so I just wrote a press bio. It's probably about 6 sentences, 3 small paragraphs. I was
Okay.
wondering something like that. It's very similar to what Ariel has. So like
Then
where
definitely, yeah.
I think mine's a little bit shorter.
Yes.
So,
I mean, you can. I think it's interesting because that seems like it might be good also for your pitch emails if you choose to. Uh, if it's 6 sentences, you can if you pair it with whatever. I'm going to jump forward. For example, like a section that is, oh my God, it's not here. If you pair it with like podcast episodes so that they can listen, because Press Bio Authority Magazine is something written, yeah. So they're gonna be looking at it as a story. If you want to do something shorter, I would pair it with speaking videos or audio.
so like, here's my question. So I have a link tree, right? So my
Okay.
link tree has all my thought leadership pieces, all my guest spots on podcasts, my social profiles. So like, could I include my link tree in like a bio, right? So they can go and kind of see the book of work that I have.
You can, but what I'll say is that our job as potential guests is to make a host job as easy as possible. So I would target your one sheet, your email, whatever, specifically to the medium that you're talking to or the person you're
Okay.
talking to. So I don't think that, I mean, I can say this with confidence, podcast guests hosts typically are not as interested in something in written versus something audio. So I would say pull it in. You can have it as like a, by the way, here's more information about me, but I wouldn't rely on it just because they're moving fast.
Yep. Awesome. Thanks.
Good question. You're welcome. Okay, cool. I'm going to read some of these. Julia started. Mhm. Okay, I'm going to read, like, I'm just going to read this out loud so you all know what I'm doing. I'm reading Julia's because it popped up. Julia Starr is a Harvard-trained leadership coach who helps high achievers make mid-career pivots. Achievers make mid-career pivots to work in alignment with their values and strengths. Her work has touched hundreds of people across companies like, yeah, BCG, nice, nice, nice. Okay, where's Julia? If you're, are you comfortable coming off of mute?
Totally. Yes.
Hi, Julia, nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a couple of questions for you.
Yeah.
Why does it matter if mid-career pivots, mid-career pivoters work in alignment with their values and strengths?
Why does it matter?
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I think mid-career in my mind helps people identify like what stage of a career I work with people at. It's not like how do you get your first job? It's not how do you become an executive? Like most of my people are managers, senior managers, directors, VPs. So
for
mid-career
sure.
should hopefully indicate that. But yeah.
Yeah, that piece I like a lot. The question is also around why it matters for them to work in alignment with their values.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's not speaking to the outcome, which is it creates a more sustainable career and there's more fulfillment for them in it on a daily basis.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I would even just put that transformation right up top because I ask myself, why does that matter? Like, what is the impact that Julia does? That simple thing. And you can even, like, you can remove some of these filler words to include the impact. So I don't know, whatever. Julia Starr is a Harvard trained leadership coach who helps high achievers make mid. I can't even do this on the spot. I think I need to write this down. But you get what I'm saying, which is sort of like make
Please rewrite it
mid-career
all. I'm
pivot.
here for it.
Okay, then give me 1 second. Do this on the spot. Make mid-career pivots to work in alignment. Remind me of the outcome, Julia.
Yeah, it creates a more sustainable and fulfilling career.
Okay, so Julia Starr is a coach. To be honest with you, this is what I would say, and it's not perfect. Julia Starr helps mid-career pivoters. This is not perfect. Live in a more sustainable career. Those are not the right words. For example, it's just like it's just catching who you are. Obviously, say Harvard trained leadership coach. I just didn't put that in there. Who it is, mid-career pivoters, and then the outcome. I think the point of working in alignment with their values and strengths, it doesn't add. It's kind of a
Right.
detail of how you get to the transformation.
Yeah.
It could be a follow-up. It could be one of your topics. It could be all that. But like that one's like with a bang. Oh, Harvard transformation, mid-career pivots. It's clear. I get it.
Well,
Cool.
thank you.
No, of course. Thank you for coming on stage. Oh, so many. Okay. I agree. Star is a very cool last name, Taylor. All right, we're going to keep moving. If we have time, I can go through these at the end. Okay, so we're going to move to defining your core topics. As we all know, it's really good to be known for something, especially in a world where everyone's trying to be known for something. It's not just to become famous or be an influencer, all that kind of stuff. It obviously has business impact because you'll be the go-to person for X or for Y. So creating your signature topics is really important. It doesn't have to be perfect right away. And in fact, a lot of my clients, we play with some funky stuff before we figured out what gets booked, what are they comfy with, and then we whittle it down. So it's like, it's all an experiment, doesn't have to be perfect. But I broke it down into sort of these buckets of topic types that could be helpful as a starting point or a continuing point for those of you who already have your topics. The first one is challenges or struggles from clients. This one is like a direct way to talk about some of the problems you directly address really fast. So, what they're actively wrestling with right now. Example, how to stop having the same conversation over and over again. This is from one of my clients who leads major change management in big companies, right? And one of the core problems is that people just keep talking about the same thing and not doing anything about it. So, that's hitting them where it hurts right there. The second is the dreams and desires. So, what they hope to achieve or long for in their work or life. This is again still related to who you're trying to talk to, the client, the leaders, whatever. An example of that topic is what if change conversations felt less like a battle and more like a bridge? Just like, oh, because a lot of people who are in change management in this situation feel like it's tiring. They think of change and they're like, this is exhausting. Thinking of change is even just like tiring me out to think about the transition. And they dream of it being something that's seamless, great, a little bit smooth. So threw in that bridge reference. Any objections or excuses that you often hear your clients or followers or whatever talking about that you feel like you're addressing. So the internal or external reasons they give for not changing, engaging, whatever problem you're solving, right? Example, I don't have time for this. So this is something that this person's client always tells them, I don't have time for this. I don't have time for change. We have to make money, right? Or whatever the case might be. So the real reason change isn't working. I threw number 4 in because I just love using the word funky, and I very much genuinely believe in combining personal and professional at all times because that's what's going to differentiate us. But your own twist on a traditional topic. I DM'd a lot of you before this and on LinkedIn. And a common thread that I heard was, I don't know how to find a place where I have a a twist on something traditional. I don't feel like I'm finding something funky or unique. And I'm like, just go for it. So then that I would say, pitch yourself as funky and unique and whatever it is. So for the same person, we threw in this topic, what Buddhism taught me about leading change. I mean, we don't know if it's going to work yet. We haven't we haven't pitched it yet, but he has been following, Eastern religion for a long time and mentioned it once to me. But he lit up when he said, "Oh, let's talk about Buddhism." His personality is very calm. He's super collected, and when he leads these huge transformations organization, chillest guy on earth, right? So I was like, why don't we talk about that? And it gets to a root of something that he's really interested in. So something like that, something where you like flip the switch. I don't know what becoming like a world's #1 salsa dancer taught me about running an agency. That dream of mine hasn't happened yet, so I can't even tell you. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you throw something in that's a little funky. People want to hear something different. They're bringing you on, right? You specifically. So don't be afraid to get messy and weird. Okay, back to our fave, Ariel. So speaking topics, you can see I threw some in. We talked about examples here, but you can see an example of what she had as a coach, right? So the playbook for turning discomfort into your competitive edge. She loves talking about being uncomfortable. Beyond accountability, coaching that gets to the root, not to the to-do list. The 20% of inputs that drive 80% of results. She also did a lot of work. She got booked a lot for topics around thinking like a scientist, which is not something I had never really heard in the coaching world too. We did a lot of work before we got to that. I don't know why I put drop one potential topic in the chat. We did talk about that in the beginning, but if anyone else feels inspired to drop another topic in the chat with some of these angles, you can go for it. Okay, so we're gonna move to the next section. So speak now or forever hold your peace with some of these. Oh yeah, Julia, take screenshots. That's cool. Anyone can take screenshots. If you have any questions, throw them in or hop off mute. That's cool too. So we're gonna move over to pitch. Okay, getting your pitch right. This is also mostly assuming email pitch, by the way. And the first thing I would say is operational, which is follow the host preferred pitching method. Hosts have a huge array of pitching methods. Sometimes it's submitting a form, sometimes it's an email. I don't know, it's all over the place. Honestly, one of my pet peeves with podcasting is that it's a huge mess operationally. But I would say check if there's any inkling about what they prefer. So that's number one. And I would say don't go outside of that. Just be respectful of it because your chances of getting a response are higher, of course. The second is to personalize your approach. And I'm going to talk through some examples of this, but they want to know that you want to be on their show. So, like, hey, podcast host, hey, Amy Poehler, because one day one of us is going to get on there, I hope. Hey, Amy Poehler, just listen to your episode with Ben from Parks and Rec. I loved X, Y, and Z about it. And this, I think I could also talk about this that'll serve your audience, right? Versus, hey, Amy Poehler, I'm funny. Do you want me on? Right? Like, make sure that they feel like you want to be on their show. So make the pitch about them and their audience, not specifically about you. So how can you serve their audience? Not just like, how are you just awesome? Pitch clear, relevant topics that prove you get their audience and can add value. You do not need to pitch all your topics all at the same time, right? This is a choice that you can make about what you feel like might be fit, or a twist you can add on your traditional topics, but be specific to their audience. Mary's getting on Amy Poehler's podcast. We saw it here first. Okay, save time and use AI to write initial drafts. I don't know. Everyone has mixed feeling about AI. I'm going to be honest. A lot of the operations of our business is run on AI, and there's a way to do it where you get it right and it sounds like you, and you don't have to actually listen to all of the episodes on that podcast. Because in reality, I mean, obviously, ideally, we all get on podcasts we know and love. In reality, to get to that stage, we need a few stepping stones before that. And so you can feed AI, obviously, some links to the podcast, maybe even the transcript, tell it your traditional pitch, and have it kind of mix and matches. So have that as the foundation. Don't feel you have to get overwhelmed by the amount of customization you have to do. I don't know, maybe I'm over explaining this, but AI, ChatGPT, all that stuff, there's ways to kind of like have it fuse for you really fast. And then follow up if you don't hear back, kind of like typical. It doesn't mean they're not interested. Oftentimes they're just really overwhelmed with inquiries. Okay, so I want to show pitch done wrong, pitch done right. I don't like right and wrong. I'm not that binary, but I would say pitch done less good. So subject line, interview request, I'd like to be on your podcast. So the body, hi, my name is Sarah Johnson. I'm a leadership coach with over 15 years of experience helping businesses succeed. By the way, as I'm reading this, feel free to tell me what's off about this. I've been featured on multiple blogs, and I also recently wrote a book. I'd love to be on your podcast to promote my new program that's launching this fall. I can talk about leadership, marketing, blah, 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 or anything you think would resonate with your audience. I've attached my 6-page media kit, CV, and a list of podcasts I've been on before. Please let me know when I can come on your show. Thanks, Sarah. 6-page media kit, yeah, that's no invite for further. Oops, I can't scroll. Connection or conversation. Yeah, Afia said, assumption of an invitation. That is true. Please let me know when I can come on your show. I know I made this like extra gross, so I apologize to everyone. Very eye-centric. Yeah, Julia, that's correct. Exactly. Mary said this pitch has nothing to do with the podcast they're trying to get on. Amen. That's what drives hosts. It's so crazy. It's all about them and not how they can relate back to the topic. Yeah. What's the book? Where have they been? No information. Okay. Oh my God, poor Sarah. We just demolished her. But Sarah has potential. Pitch done right. So we're going to do the same thing. Tell me what's better. I'm going to try to skim it faster. Okay. Hi, host name. Oh, by the way, one thing. The subject line, nobody pointed that out. Very, very important. I'd like to be on your podcast. Sad. Okay, subject line, interview idea. How introverts can thrive in leadership roles. Hi, host name. By the way, no host name here. No one caught that. I really enjoyed your recent podcast with Jane Smith on navigating leadership transitions, especially the part on building confidence during the first 90 days. That's a challenge I see all the time with my clients, and I'd love to expand on it with strategies for introverted leaders who struggle in those high pressure moments. I'm Sarah, blah, 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 leadership coach who helps introverted professionals step into leadership without burning out. Over the past 15 years, I've coached 300 plus clients, developed a framework that helps quiet leaders thrive in high pressure environments. Here are a few topic ideas that I think would resonate with your listeners. Myth of the loud leader. I won't read that. Would you be open to exploring this? I'd be happy to send over a short bio and headshot. Thanks for your time. I'd love to contribute to your show. Okay. Connecting existing podcasts to their work. Yes, exactly. This one is very, very good. Let's see, shows that she listened to the pod, understands the audience, and can help solve an issue. Exactly. These are all great. Host listeners had with previous guests. Yeah, right. It sounds like she's actually wants to be specifically on this host podcast. It's not just really broad. And she referenced an earlier podcast, so it sounds like she's listening. Subject line, very specific pitch, how introverts can thrive in leadership roles. She has, like interview idea. It's like flexible, but very specific. Okay, I want to be mindful of time, but I also want to show you something about creating a one sheet. Something we have found interestingly in our pitches is that we don't send one sheets right away. We have found, based on our stats for our agency, that this version works better instead of sending more information right away. It's an invitation. Do you want to learn more? Obviously, it takes us a little bit longer, but our response rate was higher. You can try it both ways. You can attach something, you can link to something, fine. But typically what we found at Badassery is that's just not where our higher response rate is. When it comes time, it is important that you have something to show. So I will click to our version of One Sheets on our site. It is not loading. Interesting. Oh no. This is sad. Let me try again. Are you guys seeing my oh yeah. Do you see Kasan's thing? It
Yeah.
loaded.
Love.
Okay. So your one sheet, whatever you want to call it, your website, all that kind of stuff, it does not have to be anything crazy. Don't get overwhelmed by what that means. Literally all it means is short story about me, why I'm awesome. Here's what I look like, if that's important. It's weird his topics are not loading. Something is off with what's happening here. Let me try. Yeah, okay, something is off with the site, which is unfortunate, but I'll show you maybe here then. Anyways, it'll also include your speaking topics or your signature talks. This is really frustrating. Sorry about that, guys. Under this, what happened is that there's a section to display videos, audio. If you have those things, that is extra helpful because oftentimes hosts are also scrolling right down and trying to watch or listen to see what your personality is like. Of course, they want credibility, like did you author something? What's the impact? All those things, but it can look like that. And I'm really sorry it's not working, but I'll share with you after in Circle an example, like this example page. Here, I'll also chat it in here in case it works for anybody later in life, but you can see that's kind of a good model to follow. The headshot, what you do, your bio, topics, maybe something funky about you. We have, for our clients, we have recipe for badassery for them so they can customize it. People sometimes put like literal recipes, and I'm like, you guys did not take the assignment, or you did. And then, just like make it fun, make it interactive. Not working. Okay, sorry. Well, but I'll send this again in Circle after. Okay, finding the right shows. I'm gonna try to zip through because we're getting to time. So you have a bunch of options to actually get booked, and I think a lot of you have experienced these. And actually, as I'm talking, I would love to know for any of you who have been on podcasts, how did you get invited? How did you get on it? If you could tell me while I'm talking through, that would be awesome. Maybe we can all help each other. So the first version is DIY. So you start with what's accessible and aligned. So smaller niche podcasts are amazing. I think it's really, really nice to get on podcasts that have like 200 listeners a month, 500, 1,000. Those are all amazing because they also usually have a lot of engagement. And so you can make lists on your own. You can obviously go directly to your network and see who's available to give you, maybe that you can get invited to. These are some platforms down here. I put Listen Notes, Podchaser, and Raphonic are down here to assess the quality for two things. Assess the quality of a podcast. Listen Notes here, if you haven't heard about it. Honestly, if Listen Notes doesn't work, then it's my internet. I'm going to show you Listen Notes. For example, all right, we all talked about Amy Poehler. Good hang with Amy Poehler. You can look up any podcast that exists. So what's good about this is that oftentimes we're getting inbounds, we're not sure how to assess the quality, right? If that happens. Listen Notes, this platform has a global ranking system. So if it's in the top 10%, then it'll have a rank. You can bare bones at least understand, is this like a consistent host? Is it one that has consistent listenership? Is there consistency? I wouldn't like kind of have this as your Bible. Sometimes things are in top 10% and you're like, how the heck did that happen, to be honest with you? But I would say it's a good like standard metric to be like, is this something? It's an art and a science. Look at this and then throw it in the trash and be like, let me have a listen and see if I could vibe or if this seems quality, right? But Listen Notes is an awesome place to go to not only just look them up, but see the quality. And I'll chat it to you guys here. There we go. Other ones that you can use to source to create your podcast list, Podchaser, and then Raphonic. So here you can look up things by topic, for example, mid-career professionals or I don't know, solo business, solo founders, whatever you want, and it'll pop up with the podcasts. Raphonic is what a lot of agencies use, including us. There is a fee associated with it, but it immediately will give you the email addresses of the host. It is really amazing. Podchaser, I've never personally used, so I don't know, but their design is really nice. But I think it's the same concept. You can look stuff up, you can see the consistency, the quality, and maybe I think you can get the actual host information. Okay, second is matching platforms. So there are platforms that exist. The one I know that I transparently have not used, but I have heard of is Podmatch. So it'll automatically match hosts and guests for opportunities. You basically create a profile, and then based on your topics, your background, all that kind of stuff, it'll make kind of auto matches each day. And this is great if you just want to kind of go at scale, reach outside of your network, all that kind of stuff. My honest opinion, or at least what I've heard, is that the quality is very mixed. So approach it cautiously, but I think it's definitely great if you're trying to get your foot off the ground with just getting placements. So that's up to you. You're welcome to do it. I would recommend doing it if you want to have a starting point and not reach out on your own. It's like, why not? So great time saver, mixed quality. Taryn, just since I saw this question, what's a good listen score on Listen Notes? They only rank top 10%, so 10% and above. Anything that's not considered that has no number. So I would say anything in 10% is fine. For example, Amy Poehler's was like 0.05%. I love all of you, but most likely we're not going to get on those anytime soon, like in the next like week or two, you know? So I would say anything from like top 1% to 10% is extremely possible. Okay. We talked about matching platforms. So we're going to talk about agencies. Okay, if you're ready to like fully dive in, hiring an agency is the way to go. So it's more targeted. Obviously, you get quality podcasts at scale. You don't have to do all of that search on your own. People at the agency will most likely understand what you're looking for, all that kind of stuff. Of course, it's a great time saver. And it's, well, if you go with the right one, should be high quality. So you're aware of typical costs. These agencies, they run the gamut. Some of them are by placement, some of them are subscriptions. So the typical cost per placement is usually between $350 to $2K per placement, just so you have an idea. I would say that's of a mid-range agency. If you go to ones that like are really getting you on really top tier, it can literally be thousands of dollars per placement, just so you know. I saw a question about agencies. Is it normal to go in with a list of podcasts you want to be booked on for Mary? Ooh, I don't know what's normal. It is not normal for us. this is how I'll frame it. The agency's job should be to actually create the list on your behalf so that you don't have to do the work. If you come to them with a list of podcasts you want to be on and you want them to reach out, they should be able to say, yes, sure. But there's absolutely no guarantee that they can get you on those podcasts just because you have the list. Do they expect that or do they need to form? Okay, yeah. Okay. Thanks, Taylor. Do top podcasts accept pitches? Or are they generally reaching out to people they want, asking them to come on shows? It is a mix of both. But the interesting thing about top podcasts is that typically the guest has to pay. This is the thing I learned in my podcasting life, is that they are paying thousands of dollars usually to go on. In Amy Poehler's example, I think it's just like her best friend, so it's a little bit different. But for like how I built this, all those kinds of things, usually there will be a fee because it is a huge amount of publicity for that person, that guest, and the host and the team are doing a lot of work to make that go live. So it can be, yeah, pay to play, like Mary said. It's a mix. It kind of just depends. You're welcome to pitch them. I mean, like, why not? I'm always do that. But I think it's a mix. Just watch out. There are a lot of pay to play ones, and I would actually advise against most pay to play ones. Okay. Aaron, nice job. Top 5% podcast. Okay, so you can keep the questions coming. I wanted to talk a little bit about how our agency works in case this is helpful information. And it can give you information about how other agencies work. So I'll parallel it with others. So for us, what we do is we actually are like combining all of the pieces of personal brand and pitching and content creation. So the core of it is helping you identify your topics, your bio, the thing that brings you to life. What I found in working with our clients is also that often they're too close to their zone of genius to actually see their genius. So that's why I love doing this work, because we kind of remove you from that situation and see how can you talk about this in a way that brings you to life. So working together with brand strategy, and then having an agent. So most agencies, so this is our agent, actually agent. This is our agent. This is Ruth. She's amazing. Basically, she and I work very closely together to kind of communicate, okay, this is the strategy. This is where I think we should go. And then she'll create the list on your behalf, do the outreach, and get you booked basically, or get you on the phone with the host to at least assess it. Other agencies, that's what they will also do. It is typically they have agents, they're doing the outreach, they should be making the list. You should not be expected to come with your own list. By the way, if you are, you've done probably one of the hardest parts of the job. And then the third pillar, and I'm happy to talk about this. I know we only have 5 minutes, but we actually do create a AI personal brand coach that's custom to you and all of our conversations, so that anytime you want to prepare for your podcast interviews, create content, whatever it is, you kind of have that as your go-to. It has all the information from our conversations, all like it's really creepy. It sounds like you really fast. It also sounds like me because I train it to sound like me, which is like, is that creepy or is that cool? It's mixed. It's a mixed bag. But that's kind of like all of the pieces that I think should go into actually having a successful personal brand and podcast appearances. Okay, maximizing the win in the 5 minutes we have. Well, I'm gonna go fast. So getting on the podcast, awesome, great. Mary, I'll include the link to it's on our website, it's badassery-hq.com. Something like that. I hope that works. Getting on the podcast is awesome. But what I want to iterate here is that it is like 10% of the win. It's what you actually do with the content that you're given that is the true gift and what will actually maximize everything. So repurpose your content. We know what this means, social posts, blah, 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 blah. One really awesome AI tool to use that you can upload this content into is Descript here. I will try to put it in after, or maybe Taylor, if you don't mind putting it in. But you can literally upload video, audio, whatever, and it spits out like snippets that you can just put on your social. You can customize the colors kind of. It's not like the most beautiful thing, but it saves straight up tens of hours. A pro tip is before you get on the podcast, ask the host what they're going to give you. If they'll create assets, if not, ask them for raw files. Like, please make sure you have those. Leverage for credibility. So add the podcast logo in as seen on. Something I would recommend if you have a website is adding a separate tab on your site that's for podcast placements. and then, or podcast episodes. And then you can have like an SEO description of the podcast on there, what with the video. This is amazing and will increase your Google ability, your SEO, and it just gives you credibility. People show up and you're like, oh, you've been on 10 podcasts, right? Build relationships with hosts. It's not a one and done. Like anything in life, if you treat it as a one and done, it will be, but that's just not the way it works. Everything is cyclical. So follow up to thank them. These small things really matter. Make sure you share the episode. Every time I talk to a host, I ask them their number one pet peeve, and they're like, the guest doesn't share. So they hate it, and they spend tens of hours. These hosts are doing this like really from their heart and love. Please just share it and like it. It's just like even goodwill, and stay in touch with them. You never know what happens. Hosts are connectors. If they like working with you, they're going to keep wanting to work with you, right? Especially in your niche. Okay, measuring your ROI. One thing I want to say is don't go on podcasts if the expectation is to make sales. That's just, it's not correlated like that. It's PR, right? So if you're going to go and be like, I want to have 10 booked calls, I'm telling you now, invest your money in like paid ads or something. It's just not what this is for. But always have a clear CTA when you step into the recording. At the end, a host should ask you, where can we find out more about you? Or is there anything you want to leave the guests with or the audience with? Like, you don't want to be like, I don't know, my Instagram, whatever, so just be clear, like, oh yeah, we just launched this new course. You can head to my website, badassery-hq.com, and check it out. What I was going to say here. Yeah, okay. There's this thing called show notes, if you don't know. It is literally like the description of the podcast episode that should include your name. If it doesn't, I don't know what we're doing, because your name should be there. And you should ask the host, if they don't ask you, if you can include redirect links to your website or whatever you want to redirect to. It, like, they might say no, but who cares? Whatever. No is great. At least you asked, right? So that way you can get extra specific. Ask them, whatever. One other thing, if you really want to get specific with how to measure, is create a podcast redirect link. So instead of just saying badassery-hq.com, you could only share this version, badassery-hq.com/podcast, for podcasts that you've been on. That way you can actually measure tangibly, like, is there an impact on this link or the podcast that you're guesting on? Okay, I think that's it. That is it. Oh my God, 1 minute to spare. I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna take up the whole time.
My gosh, that was amazing.
Cool.
Thank you,
Okay.
Danielle.
You're welcome.
Anything else? Were you going to say something else? I don't want to cut you off.
No, someone else should say something. Yeah.
Okay, great. I'm going to hop in and be that person. That was so great. Can we get some, take a bow, get some confetti in the chat, some love. That was so packed with goodness. Thank you so much. I have so many notes and I can't, I'm sure we all do. So I'm going to drop a couple of quick links into the chat so you can stay in touch with Danielle, where you can find her on Circle if you have any follow-up questions or whatever. That recording of this session, if you want to go back, will be available in the next few days. Definitely by next week. It is a Thursday, so maybe Monday or Tuesday inside of the on-demand education section in Circle. But I also just want to say thank you to all of you for carving out an hour of your day to hang out with us, and also just increase your visibility, put yourself first, go get the damn podcast, go get the damn booking. So good to have you all here. I am going to quickly just share while I have you. If you are looking for podcasts and would be interested in being on another member's podcast, inside of Circle, if you go to Evergreen Offers and then you click on PR Podcasts, you'll see several opportunities in here, if only it'll load, and you can scroll them this way. Also, inside of offers, we update this quarterly. So inside of offers, there are some other even newer ones since we updated this in July. So feel free to either browse in offers or search podcast up here, and you should find some of those opportunities there if you would have fun being on another members podcast. But thanks so much. I hope to see you all again soon. And thank you so much, Danielle. This was truly just so, so amazing.
Of course. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Bye, crew. See you soon.